My name is Neil Soten Theise. Thank you, Bokashu. And as he said earlier, I'm a senior student here. It's interesting looking around the room, everyone has their cameras at different positions. So some people are looking very imperious, looking down on the proceedings. And some people are looking very small, looking up in their little boxes. And some are sort of right there. I wanted to talk today about a koan that appears in both the Blue Cliff Record and in the Book of Serenity. It's number 3 in the Blue Cliff Record. It's number 36 in the Book of Serenity. It's called Master Ma Is Unwell. And this is always sort of a fave of mine. I find it kind of delightful for some reason. It goes, the main case, Master Ma was unwell. The monastery superintendent asked, "Master, how is your venerable state these days?" The great teacher said, "Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha." So I just love that. Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. Master Ma was an 8th century Chan teacher in China, considered one of the great teachers. The Blue Cliff Record edition that we use in his bio says that he gave Dharma transmission to 139 enlightened successors. And he was also known as Great Master Ma and Ancestor Ma. So very important in our lineage, even if you maybe haven't heard of him until this moment. Without him, where would we be? The monastery superintendent comes in, he's not feeling well, so the superintendent comes in and asks after him, how is your venerable state these days? And a comment, I can't remember in which book there's a comment about this, but it's interesting to note that he doesn't say, are you feeling good today? Or are you feeling bad today? He's being a very wise disciple and merely saying, how is your state these days? Not judging, not anticipating, maybe a little afraid of the, of the great man too, just gingerly inquiring. And the great teacher replies, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. The Book of Serenity refers to these names for Buddha as coming from a sutra I wasn't able to locate other than in references to this koan called the Many Names of Buddha Sutra. So apparently there was a compendium of many names of Buddha. And we know in all of our chanting and services, we have many names for Buddha. 2 of them, apparently, are sun-faced Buddha and moon-faced Buddha. And this is kind of what I wanted to unpack a little bit today. What do these mean? What do they reflect? And they really touch me as I dig into them in a whole bunch of different personal ways that I thought were worth encountering with you all. So first, there's the general metaphor, sun and moon. So the sun is sort of this extraordinarily bright, featureless, glowing orb within which you can see nothing to distinguish anything from anything else, which isn't a bad metaphor for the absolute, the pure awareness that we are seeking to manifest, though seeking even is too strong a word, to be present with, to acknowledge, to recognize in our practice. It has no features. It's the non-dual. There's no subject and object. There's no flaw. There's no. It's just this extraordinary, bright, featureless, but vivid glowing ball. And then there's the moon, which is also strikingly bright. But even at its brightest, it has features. And even at its brightest, You go through the course of the month and you watch it change moment to moment to moment. This is really nicely described actually in the commentary in the Book of Serenity to the next koan, Guishan's Active Consciousness. Yangshan and Shandao of the stone grotto were gazing at the moon when Yangshan asked, when the moon is a crescent, where does the round shape go? And when it is full, where does the crescent go? Shandao said, when it's a crescent, the round shape is concealed. When it's full, the crescent shape remains. But then it goes on to offer other opinions. Yunyan said, when it's a crescent, the round shape remains. When it's full, the crescent shape does not exist. Dao Wu said, when it's a crescent, yet it's not a crescent. When it's full, it's still not round. Which of these is right? Each of them is coming with their own perspective, and that's sort of the nature of what we mean by the world of the relative. You have a stance and you have a perspective and you choose a view and you see things based on those choices, which may be instinctive, they may be unconscious, they may be very conscious, specifically chosen, and each view is not right, but it is not wrong either, because all these views together comprise some sort of reality. So you could look at Master Ma's comment here sort of saying, you know, the simplest is, well, I'm sick. I feel lousy. But also I'm sick and I feel pretty great. Why choose? So that's, you know, simple. But on the other hand, distinguishing these two faces of Buddha, the Buddha has two faces. I thought this was all about non-duality. There's a good and a bad. There's a yes and a no. There's a sun face and a moon face. But the thing about these two as an image is that it's all the same light coming through. You may see the sun, and you may see the moon, but it's the same light coming through either way. It's that light coming from the sun. That's the light of your own pure awareness. Do you see it as the sun? Or do you see the changing moon? Either way, it's Buddha nature. It's Buddha nature as the absolute. It's Buddha nature in your everyday world, in this life of changing things and objects and boundaries and separation and stuff like that. It's still that same awareness. It's still that same light. So usually I don't really like the poems because they feel so effortful. But in this one, again, it just sort of, there's a lightness to it that sort of charms me, and how it explores these ideas. And there's a very different poem between Blue Cliff Record and Book of Serenity. It's the Book of Serenity one that kind of charms me. It goes like this. Sun face Buddha, moon face Buddha. Stars fall, thunder rolls. The mirror faces forms without subjectivity. The pearl in a bowl rolls of itself. Don't you see? Before the hammer, gold refined 100 times. Under the scissors, silk from one loom. Sun face Buddha, moon face Buddha. Stars fall and thunder rolls. What this conjures to me when I read this and think about it in the context of this koan, stars falling are something you see. Thunder rolling is something you hear. And when we're sitting, if we're sitting inside in a relatively stable environment, you're probably having two major sensations from the external world: what you hear and what you see. And how you bring your awareness to those things is what your practice is. That's what we're working with all the time. Light of falling stars, the rolling of thunder, but of course also the feeling of the cushion on your feet, or if there's wind blowing, how it moves on your skin. But vision and hearing, I think that's probably where most of us spend a lot of our time being aware. And what are the qualities of that awareness? I think that's what's being described in the poem. The mirror faces forms without subjectivity. You have a perfect mirror, without blemish, without dust. Which side is the real and which is the reflected? How intimate are those two things? Where's the mirror even? Standing in front of that perfect mirror and gazing at your own reflection, after a time, can you even be sure which is the real? And is there a mirror? Where is the moment the reflection happens? You can't find it. Where is the surface of the mirror doing the reflecting? There's nothing there, which is kind of the nature of mind being aware and encountering the world as it is. The pearl in a bowl rolls of itself. You know, if you throw a die into a bowl, it'll bounce a few times and land because it has sharp edges. It can roll, but only a few times, and then it will land and it will be still. But in this line, I'm imagining this perfect, smooth pearl, without flaw, without blemish, rolling in a silver bowl that's so perfectly structured that there's no flaw and no blemish. And there's no friction. There's nothing to slow that down. You drop the ball in and set it moving, and how long is it going to go for? No interruption, no hesitation, no friction, as though it's moving of itself. Nothing to interfere with it. Is that your mind when you're sitting on the cushion? It's not usually my mind when I'm sitting on the cushion. But what if it were? Don't you see before the hammer gold refined 100 times? When we refine gold, we're melting it, we're straining out impurities, we're doing it again, we're doing it again, we're doing it again, 100 times. So it's the most pure gold you can possibly imagine. But it's just gold. Like the sun is just that light of the sun, and we can't look at it and see, oh, there are sunspots or there are bursts or flares. All we see is such bright light that all we can see is that undifferentiated light. And gold refined 100 times is like that. But if you take a hammer to it and form it into a golden chalice, a set of rings, a statue, a manjushri on the altar of Zendo, gold leaf for some wood on the manjushri of the statue. Then it has form. It's the same gold. As it's refined and after it's hammered out, there's no difference. Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. The last line is kind of my favorite, and I think it's because, so the last line is, under the scissors, silk from one loom. My dad was in the rag trade, and how he got into it was he was apprenticed when he was a teenager, having arrived in England from Germany. They had to teach him a trade, and he wound up in what would turn out to be one day his father-in-law's clothing factory, and he was taught how to be a cutter. And so this idea of taking scissors and cutting this fabric into a pattern that would be made into a dress or something, you know, there's a nostalgia there when I read this line. But picture that silk, that shining wave of silk pouring out from a single loom. Shining, flawless. What color is the silk? Going off in every direction. For some reason, I picture like a blue jay blue. And it's just silk. It's hard even to see where it is. You can be up close, you could be far away. All you're going to see is waves of color with no differentiation. But then you pick up the shears. Are you going to make a rakusu? Are you going to make a pillowcase? Are you going to make a blouse? Are you going to make a dress? Pajamas. I wanted to make sure I mentioned pajamas. Who wears pajamas? But silk pajamas, just think. When you pick up the shears, it's not silk. It's still silk. But now you're saying, I'm going to form it this way. I'm going to create boundaries here. I'm going to create separations there. And out of that, you create something that's beautiful and useful and comfortable. It's still the silk. And that's also like our practice. When you're sitting on the cushion, how do you slice your awareness? How do you shape your awareness? We have instructions when we're doing zazen about how we are to do zazen. And then we sit on the cushion and we go and try to do that for, you know, a week, a month, 30 years, whatever. I thought I knew how to be aware on the cushion. I've had a few comeuppances in the last few weeks in that regard. Partly because I'm also doing Tai Chi now, and I'm finding my experience of my body and how it sits or doesn't lets go or doesn't let go is become vivid when I'm sitting. And it turns out never in 33 some odd years of practice have I ever actually relaxed my body to sit on the cushion. I'm always holding it tight. So for the last few months, I've been learning, as I am in Tai Chi, to just sort of actually sit on the cushion. It's astonishingly difficult, but it's getting easier. So a lot of my attention in sitting has been drop the weight, let it go. And then I encountered, someone taught me a meditation technique, was giving me an exercise to try, and from another tradition. And they said, put your fingers on your eyes and press lightly, looking upward. And the light that you start to see is the primordial light. And then while you're doing that, close your ears, and the sound that you hear, that's the universal Om. And I did it, and I thought, oh, I thought those were the lights that my retinas see when I distort the blood flow through my retina. And so, I mean, whenever you close your eyes, you see light. That's just like your eye firing things. And that noise, well, when I take it away, I can still sort of hear it. Well, that's just the sound of blood rushing through my eardrum. And, you know, I mean, it's always there. It never occurred to me to pay attention to that, whether it's primordial or just what my body's doing. And I was confused about, like, how am I supposed to be sitting with all these things? So I went in, pardon me mentioning it, Shinryu Sensei, I'm going to talk about Dokusan now. So you know, how am I sitting now? Am I supposed to be doing shikantaza? Am I supposed to be following my breath? Am I supposed to be, you know, all these possibilities? And Sensei said, just be aware. Right. Just be aware. But it never occurred to me that when I'm practicing just being aware, I should include that sound in my ear and those lights underneath my eyelids. I've never included those in my practice because for some reason I cut them out and separated them off as that's just my body doing its thing. And one of the most mysterious instructions for years, 3 decades, is when all of our teachers at one point or another say things like, well, in a moment like that, pay attention to your body. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Because for me, I made a separation. My mind is not interested in what my body is doing. Part of why I was attracted to Zen practice in the first place was I thought this was all about just mind. I could dispense with the rest of it. So these are places where I constrict my awareness out of habit that I wasn't even aware of for more than 30 years of practice. And now when I'm sitting, until I can hear that sound in my ear and see those lights behind my eyelid, I know I'm not actually being present with the moment. But needless to say, it's not just about personal practice in this way. And actually, I'm going to refer to someone else in the Zendo who is here. Gesho, can I quote some emails of yours from a couple of weeks ago? She says yes. Thank you. So let's go back to the koan, because there's an interesting historical little bit to this. That little bit is that Master Ma, apparently at the time of this koan, was dying. He wasn't just not feeling good. This was the end of his life. And when the superintendent comes in and says, Master, how is your venerable state these days? I don't know, but I guess that a monastery superintendent is probably a significantly senior practitioner as well. And faced with walking into the room of his teacher, who's on his deathbed, comes in not with some demonstration of his wisdom, not even some demonstration of his compassion necessarily, because that question is more like, are you okay? And what he's met with is his teacher saying, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. In this moment, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. And I think about this superintendent as coming in such a frantic state because his world is on the edge of something really significant. His teacher is about to die. The abbot is about to die. One of the greatest Chan teachers in the country in memory is about to die, and everything's going to change. And that's the spirit that he's coming in with. And to what extent, and that's with all the years of practice he's had. He's totally caught up in the fear of, how is my master doing today? Is he still here? And reading that, I thought back to something Gesho wrote in 2 successive emails. I should move her face into view. Okay, she's smiling. A couple of weeks ago, because they struck me at the time and they strike me now as sort of an exact sum up. And I thought I couldn't do better than to quote what she sent by email to the group. She had attended a Black Lives Matter protest in Times Square and wrote this poem relating to another koan, but that she sent around to us. How is the Buddhist teaching around here? In the morning sky, birdsong and helicopters. In the city square, protesters and police massed together. Among each are the violent and the peaceful. I can't breathe, say the signs. While behind each mask, a mouth struggles to inhale and to shout. Homeless men, tourists, citizens and officers, coming and going without number, the wide street holds them all. And there was a really beautiful conversation that ensued when she sent that out of people responding to that poem. But the next morning she sent around, as I reflect this afternoon, the next day, as I reflect this afternoon and evening, listening to helicopters and sirens from the safety of my apartment, I think my poem and note were not quite accurate to my feelings. I find I've been more sympathetic to the violence of protesters than I would have expected, despite my own convictions that nonviolent disobedience is both right-hearted and more effective. The violence of state power, on the other hand, is abhorrent as never before. I feel policing as we know it must end, and I do stand absolutely in support of the anger and hurt of Black and brown people who have a right to expect that their government belongs to them, serves them, loves and cherishes them. Sometimes the expansiveness of one Zen perspective, the wide street, the wide sky, seems just right. Sometimes you simply want to stand with those who are suffering. And to me, that's just a perfect expression of this moment and the superintendent coming in. And Master Ma presents him as a reply for how his state is that day, sun-faced Buddha, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. And makes me want to turn that last line of hers into a poem to leave you with. Sometimes the expansiveness of one Zen perspective, the wide street, the wide sky, seems just right. Sometimes you simply want to stand with those who are suffering. Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha,